have seen how many reformers came in front and started to convince the society about the reforms and the upliftment of women and the lower castes as well. So we have discussed about the reforms that were being focused on education, on women empowerment. But this was also the point of time when the 19th century society of India was ridden by caste differences, right? As we already know that there were 4 castes, and the upper castes looked down upon the lower castes, and untouchability was prevalent at that point of time. So we also come across the fact that the Hindu religion at this point of time in 19th century was really corrupt and had become shackled by the evil practices, the extravagant rituals that it followed. So we see that it was in fact in the areas of Hindu religion as well where reform started happening. So the first reform that was brought ahead was by Sri Narayan Guru. Now, Sri Narayan Guru himself was, a person who belonged from a family of the outcast. So he belonged to the lower caste structure of the society. And because he belonged from the lower caste, he knew exactly the atrocities that the lower caste people had to face. Now, at that point of time, the people from lower caste weren't allowed to enter temples. They weren't allowed to visit the temples where idols of the gods was situated. Now, this kind of discrimination was something that Sri Narayan Guru was against, and for the same, he established Sri Narayan Dharma Paripalan Yogam, so SNDP, which was established in 1903, and this focused basically on bringing these lower caste people out of these atrocities, and of course aimed at a religion that was equal towards all. So he believed in the fact that it was everybody's religion and everybody should be observing it as and how they would want to. So here we can see the head office of SNDP, which is located at Kollam in Kerala. So SNDP campaigned for temple entry rights for outcast and untouchable. So for lower caste people, it tried to reorganize the way how they were being looked at in terms of religion and how religion would be observed by them. So we see that he promoted among people the need to believe in one caste, one God and one religion for all. So the basic terms of equality in the society was being looked at by Sri Narayan Guru. Do you know who was called the first Mahatma in India? It was Jyotirao Govindrao Fulay, who was also known as Jyotiba Fulay. Now, Jyotiba Fulay was focused on working for women and bringing about empowerment in terms of how religion saw women, right? So he believed in the fact that too many ritual practices weren't important and neither were priests. So Jyotiba Fulay with his wife worked towards the empowerment and upliftment of women in the society. So he established the Satyasodhak Samaj in 1873, who would aim at gaining equal rights for all. So these are, as we see, the first 4 members of the Satyasodhak Samaj, where Jyotiba Fulay's wife is also included. Now, Jyotiba Fulay, as we were discussing, was somebody who did not adhere to the norms of how Hinduism was practiced. So he did not believe that a Brahmin was necessary at all for any sort of rituals. In this very picture, then, we can see how Jyotiba Fulay organized a wedding without even a Brahmin priest. It was not just Jyotiba Fulay, but his wife, Savitribai Fulay, who supported him all throughout this journey of empowerment and reform that Jyotiba Fulay was bringing. Often known as the modern Rishi, we see Mahadev Govind Ranade bringing about a change in the way, Hinduism was being observed and Hinduism was being perceived. So he was the one who campaigned against child marriage as well as the Parda system. Now Govind Ranade was also the person who advocated for widow remarriage as well as provided certain significant contribution to the educational spheres. Now Govind Ranade, we see, is also a staunch nationalist and later becomes a very important leader in the face of the national movement. He established Indian National Social Conference to promote social reforms on a national scale. So therefore you can understand how exactly Govind Ranade was visualizing these changes, these reforms that were happening. And he did not want to only focus in one region or one state, rather the entire Indian subcontinent. Born as Mul Shankar, who was later given the name of Dayanand Saraswati, was a staunch reformer for the changes in the society. He was born in Gujarat in 1824. And Dayanand Saraswati was the one who believed in one God, the observation of one God. So ideally believing in a monotheistic religion, and strongly propagated monotheism and advocated that idol worship should not be done in Hinduism. So Dayanand Saraswati dedicated his life fighting against social evils like caste discrimination and child marriage. He was the one who believed in the maxim that all are born equal and nobody should be discriminated against on the basis of their caste, their religion, or where they are exactly born. So Dayanand Saraswati collaborated with Vidyasagar, Ranade and Keshav Chandra Sen to establish the Arya Samaj in Bombay in 1875. Now this Arya Samaj focused on bringing about reforms in the religion, in Hindu religion specifically, and it became a Samaj for all the caste members. So, the membership for Arya Samaj was opened to all people from all the castes. There were no caste restrictions, and Arya Samaj basically looked at transforming the way Hinduism was being observed. So, moving out of the orthodox beliefs. Arya Samaj carried out various social welfare programs and basically supported the times of famine. Relief, it ran orphanages as well as widow homes. So we can see in these two pictures, the first is children have been taken under the shelter of the Arya Samaj during the 1908 Indian famine. And here is the current situation of Arya Samaj, where it is helping out underprivileged people. So basic idea of the Arya Samaj was to provide relief to the society. You will be interested to know that Arya Samaj created the later nationalist leaders. People like Lala Lajpat Rai, Lala Hansraj, who were later associated with the Indian national movement, who were the forerunners of the Indian national movement, came out of Arya Samaj, and Arya Samaj had created their mindset for the further political changes as well. Dayanand Saraswati wanted to instill in people the respect for their native culture. So we see that Dayanand Saraswati wanted the people to have faith in the ancient knowledge of the Vedas, and thus popularized the phrase, "go back to the Vedas." Now, he also started the Shuddhi movement to reconvert Hindus who had been forcibly converted to other religions. Dayanand Saraswati mostly wrote in Hindi to reach out to the majority. We see that in 1877, he wrote a book called Satyarth Prakash, containing the essence of his writings, which were published in Varanasi. So this is the book Satyarth Prakash by Dayanand Saraswati. After the death of Dayanand Saraswati, we see that his ideas were taken up and were propagated by Lala Hansraj. So Lala Hansraj, along with the other followers, established the first Dayanand Anglo-Vedic school, established in Lahore in 1886. Now, the Dayanand Anglo-Vedic school was, focused on imparting combined education of the traditional method of Indian learning as well as the Western scientific studies. So, Western sciences and Western knowledge was also being imparted along with the traditional ideas of knowledge. However, after a point of time, we see around, the 1900s, there was a split in Arya Samaj on the question of the exact education policy that they should be following. So we see that differences over the education policy is something that caused a split in Arya Samaj. The orthodox section of the Arya Samaj basically wanted to establish a Gurukul in 1902. So they wanted to go back to the way traditional method of education was followed. So the Gurukul system at Haridwar modeled for Vedic Gurukuls. But that wasn't possible because, of course, the more radical wing would want the Western scientific thought as well, and therefore automatically there was a split. Do you know that there existed a boy who had, at a very young age, learnt Mahabharata in its entirety by heart? In fact, this very boy did not even move an ounce when a snake slid past him when he was meditating. We are talking about Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, who was born as Narendranath Dotto. Now, Swami Vivekananda from a very young age was focused on, gaining the new methods of how to change the education system, and also his ideas regarding Hinduism kept changing because of the way he grew up with Western education as well. Now, Swami Vivekananda was somebody who also inspired Subhash Chandra Bose, who became one of the famous leaders to lead the military nationalism in Indian nationalist movement. So Swami Vivekananda at the age of 30 went abroad and gave a very famous speech at Chicago that made him very popular as a person that was here to change the way religion was perceived in the world. So we see Swami Vivekananda delivering his very famous speech in the Parliament of Religions, which was held in Chicago, USA on the 11th of September in 1893. So you can see how he is situated there, and when he gave his speech, Vivekananda started his speech with brothers and sisters of America, and that is something that won the hearts of the audience. Whereas in the usual way, people usually start with ladies and gentlemen. But Swami Vivekananda made it much more personal in the sense that all people that we see, that we live with are but, our friends, and that is why our brothers and sisters, and that is exactly the reason why Swami Vivekananda also stated the same. When Swami Vivekananda came back, he tried to eliminate superstition, narrow-mindedness and weakness in all forms. So basically, he focused on young minds that were concentrated on the change and that would bring about the desired change in the way religion was perceived rather than from the orthodox sense of it. So we see that he held the society responsible for the upliftment of the downtrodden. So Vivekananda stated, and his very famous ideology was that the society is the one who made the concept of a downtrodden. So it was the society's responsibility to bring that downtrodden up to a level of equality. Vivekananda was the one who popularized the Bengali maxim, Jibe prem kore jei jon, shei jon shebiche ishore. Roughly translated in English, we see that he stated that whoever loves all without any discrimination is actually loving God. So you can understand how foresighted Vivekananda was and how spiritually he was connected to religion, to Hindu religion, that he could rise above all orthodoxy, all ritualistic sense of it, and come up with a very philosophical ideology of this particular religion. Swami Vivekananda established Ramakrishna Mission in 1887 after his Guru Ramakrishna Paramhansa. So Ramakrishna Paramhansa was the one who supported secular religious ideas, and Swami Vivekananda took to his path and established a mission after his name. As you can see, this is the emblem of Ramakrishna Mission, which was designed by Vivekananda himself. So when was Ramakrishna Mission established? Was it 1878, 1887, 1900 or 1885? The answer is 1887. So we see that the mission continues to set up schools, colleges and hospitals, as well as provide relief during natural or man-made disasters even today. So during the global pandemic that hit India in 2020, we saw that Ramakrishna Mission came ahead and delivered a huge amount of relief, and they have been applauded for that as well. Even in the picture you can see the COVID relief drive that was organized by Ramakrishna Mission in New Delhi. Swami Vivekananda also established a monastery or a mott at Belur in 1899 to take care of the religious aspects of the mission's work. So as you can see, this is the picture of the Belur mott that was established by Swami Vivekananda. Unfortunately, Swami Vivekananda died at a very young age of 39 due to a serious brain injury. So till now, we have already learnt about Savitribai Fulay, who was Jyotiba Fulay's wife and worked towards the upliftment and empowerment of women. So she worked for women's rights and campaigned against untouchability, sati and child marriage, and also other social evils of that point. Along with her husband Jyotirao Fulay, she founded the first girls' school in Pune. So you can see how all these reformers are basing their reform activities not just around religion, not just around societal evils, but also in constructive work of the new kind of education systems that they wanted to promote. Another eminent face in the Reformation movement that was happening in India at that point of time was a woman named Annie Besant. Annie Besant is also one of the most famous faces in Indian nationalism as a woman who focused on the Upanishadic side of Hinduism and also tried to reform the structure of the religion in the same manner. So we see that Annie Besant was an active member of the Theosophical Society that was founded in USA in 1875. Now in India, the headquarters of the Theosophical Society was situated in Adyar near Chennai. Annie Besant tried to focus on the Upanishadic methods of Hinduism, the way Upanishads and Vedas have promoted Hinduism. So what she exactly tried to do was to revive Hinduism based on the philosophy that was offered by Upanishads, and in this process she would want to get rid of the social evils that were existing in the Hindu society. The Theosophical Society also promoted the Boy Scouts movement. Now this Boy Scouts movement was focused on developing youth and young minds who should be given a holistic development so that they can experience to a development of body, mind and ideas. So we see that this Boy Scout movement had also established schools for both boys and girls. Now Annie Besant also gave her input in education by establishing the Central Hindu College in Varanasi in 1916, that is today called the Banaras Hindu University. It was not only Annie Besant and Savitribai Phule, but another eminent figure was Pandita Ramabai. Pandita Ramabai focused on improving the conditions of the destitute women and child widows. So we have seen that child marriage was very prevalent, and there were child widows as well whom Pandita Ramabai would provide relief and would also give them a place to live, because often these widows, these young widows were left to die in poverty or in isolation. So Ramabai established the Sharoda Sadhan to provide accommodation and help to the widows, and the Mukti Mission to house the destitute child widows, women as well as orphans in the late 19th century. So you can understand how Ramabai's entire focus was to provide relief, was to provide for that section of the society that was often looked down upon or was neglected. The other eminent face of the women reform movement at this point was Sister Nivedita. Now Sister Nivedita was also a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. So you can understand how she took to the paths of Vivekananda, and she established a school for women in Bagh Bazar in Calcutta. Now she tirelessly worked during the plague that hit Calcutta, where there were numerous amounts of death in late 19th century. And this act of providing relief to young people inspired the young people who were driven towards the voluntary service along with Sister Nivedita. We also see Rokia Begum, who stood up for the equality of men and women along with Sister Nivedita during this point of time. Now she was also the one who started the first school for Muslim girls in Calcutta in 1909. So because Rokia Begum belonged from the Muslim community, she wanted to do something that could uplift the women in that community, that religion as well. So let's play a little game. As you can see, these are the two columns that are present, and you have to match the social reformers with the institutes or the organizations that they established. For example, we can see that Annie Besant here in this column is right beside Arya Samaj, which is an organization. Now you tell me whether Annie Besant established Arya Samaj or not. We all know that it is a wrong answer. So what will be the right answer to all of this? Let's take a look at it. So Annie Besant established Central Hindu College. And we can see in these columns, Swami Vivekananda is the one who established Ramakrishna Mission. Narayan Guru established Sri Narayan Dharma Paripalan Yogam. Dayanand Saraswati established Arya Samaj and Jyotiba Fulay established Satya Sodhak Samaj. Thus we can understand how all these social reformers were not only reforming the ideas, the older ideas of the society, but also they were looking forward to changing the way religion was perceived, particularly Hinduism, and we saw how the Hindu religion was now given a different form rather than the orthodox form that it had before. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at deltastep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly, learn via games, and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.